Hello, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome all of you to this educational program. I also would like to welcome all our dear students in all grades, and more precisely our students in grade 12, to my lesson, which is going to be about set book. Before the break, I'd like you to be ready. Get ready by preparing your books, your copybooks, or your notebooks. Please keep your books closed. I will be more than happy to meet you after the break. Welcome back to our virtual infinite educational program. As I said before, today I'm going to deal with set book. Of course, you know that the set book is divided between the textbook, which is over to you, textbook, and the story that you have in literature time, which is about Henry V. Before dealing with these set book questions, I'm going to show you something which is very important concerning the question. So all the questions are of general nature. Some questions about set book, the set book about the topics of their book, textbook, and the literature time. Let's talk about the quiz. In the quiz, you will have set book topics, and you will have questions about literature time. And as this graph shows here, you will have two questions related to your textbook, over to you, and you will have only one question related to literature time. And of course here, as you notice, there are no options, there are no choices. Now after the quiz, let's have an idea about the number of questions that you will have in your official exams during the first, the second, the third, and the fourth period. Let's start by the first and the third period exams. As you can see here, you are going to answer 2 out of 3 questions. So you have 1 extra question. And you will have to answer 1 out of 2 questions which are related to literature time. Now what about the second and the fourth periods? In the second and the fourth period, you will have to answer 3 out of 4 questions. There is 1 extra question. On the other hand, for the literature time, you are going to answer only 1 question out of 2 questions. Then you have 1 extra question. Now let's concentrate on the set book allotted to the textbook, over to you. The questions you are going to be given are of general nature, so don't worry. This kind of question is a little bit like a composition or an essay writing. You have to produce pieces of information from your part, from the book, or from your own experience. That means you have to stick to the rules of writing composition by giving whole sentences. So you have to provide your answers, and your answer should be given in full and meaningful sentences. So no isolated words are accepted, okay, and no fragments are accepted. You have to write full sentences. There are some tips that I'd like to give you. If you stick to them, you will pass. The first one, you have to read all the questions carefully, from question number 1 till the end of the task. Then you are going to decide on the most manageable questions. After reading the questions, you are wise enough and you are able enough to choose the questions that are that suit your level and your preparation. Let's move now to number C, which is about something very important. You have to be resourceful, which means that you can resort to your textbook to get the answer, or you can rely on your own knowledge to give us information that suit or that work with the objectives of the question. Then you have to provide meaningful and full sentences, as I have already said. Then you have to give due care to your handwriting, which is very important, and to your spelling. The last thing you have to do is to proofread your answers before handing your papers. Now let's start by Module 1, Unit 2, questions about your text. Over to you. I'd like you to answer the following question while your books are closed, of course. What do you expect the theme of our unit is about? I'm going to show you some pictures with some comments, okay, underneath, and try to guess the theme. This picture is very clear. It's about buildings, destroyed buildings, and people are trying to move, okay, from their homeland. Here it is written, residents of San Francisco left after the earthquake and fire of 1906. Some words here need to be taken into consideration. This word is the word left and earthquake. So it's clear here that there were some people who did their best to leave as soon as possible because there was a natural disaster. The following picture is about the Irish famine. Thousands of Irish left for America in the 19th century to find a better job. Again here, we have some clues, okay? And here we have the plague potato, mass starvation, the great hunger in Ireland. Thousands of Irish left for America in the 19th century to find a better life. And here we have to focus on this piece of information to find a better life, to improve their daily life. The last pictures are the following. Here we have some workers who are working on their oil field, and it seems clear here that we are talking about Kuwait. Many Europeans migrated to the Gulf after the oil boom, and again here we have some hints about the theme of our unit, which is the oil boom. So it's clear from the introduction we are talking about something very important, one of the world issues that we are dealing with in our textbook. I hope that you have guessed it correctly. Yes, it's about migration. Okay? Now let's have an idea about the meaning of migration. When a large number of people go to live in another area or country, especially in order to find work, or when birds or animals travel regularly from one part of the world to another, especially for food, warmer weather, and breeding. Now, let's start now by getting our questions. Answer the following questions. And again, just to remind you, you have to provide us with meaningful sentences. So no words, no isolated words, and no fragments are allowed in your exams. Here is the first question. Read it carefully. There are many reasons that push people to migrate from their motherland to foreign countries. Mention 4 reasons. If you notice here, the nature of this question is of general nature. Anybody can answer this question. Anybody can answer this question, even though, okay, he or she hasn't got any idea about our textbook. You can guess about, okay, the answer here. The question again, and the answer is like this. People migrate for many reasons. This is the introduction for your answer. Then we provide a full stop. And then we start a second sentence. First, they migrate to seek better living conditions. Full stop. And we start another sentence. Second, they migrate to escape natural disasters. Third, they migrate to carry on their higher education. Finally, they migrate to escape famine. So here you can see as if I were writing a piece or a short paragraph of an essay. Okay? Now let's focus on the linkers that I have used here, or the cohesive devices that have guaranteed a kind of unity in our paragraph. The first one is first. then you have second, third, and finally. You have to do this. You have to connect your sentences together. Now let's move to question number 2. As it says here, why did thousands of skilled workers move to Kuwait in the 1960s and 70s, and what contributions did they make? This is a question of a general nature. Anybody can answer this question. Our question again here, and this is the answer. After the discovery of oil, comma, and here you notice the use of punctuation is very important in such kind of questions. Kuwait was in an urgent need of experts in the field of oil industry, full stop. So, and here is the comma, thousands of skilled workers moved to Kuwait for better jobs after the oil boom. End of a thought, and we have another thought. In fact, they helped boost the Kuwaiti economy and realize great results. Again, now I refer to punctuation and to the linkers in order to link your sentences together. Here we have the word after. Here we have the word so, and finally we use in fact. Now let's move to question number 3. The question says, for what reasons do animals and birds migrate from their original homes? Again, we are using questions of general nature. Anybody can answer them without going back to the passages and the text that you have in over to your textbook series. The question here again, and this is the answer. Animals and birds migrate for many reasons. This is your introduction. Full stop. They migrate for food. This is the first reason. If you want to add another reason, you have to link this sentence with the third sentence. For example, I have chosen to link it by using moreover, or furthermore, or in addition, or adding to this. Any kind of linkers is fitting here. So, moreover, they migrate in cold weather, looking for warmer weather in the south. End of this thought. Then we move to another thought. Finally, animals and birds migrate to raise their young. Their migration is necessary because it ensures their survival. Of course, the last sentence is not obligatory here, but it's from of you to convince the reader that you understand the theme and you are ready to provide us with very fruitful pieces of information. Now let's move to the fourth question. Two major theories explain how animals know their destination. What are they? So here we are going to talk about two theories that scientists proposed, okay, and try to help us to understand this phenomenon of the animals and the birds, how, okay, they can move from one place to another and go back to their homeland. This is your question, and this is the answer. Some scientists think that all animals and birds have compasses inside their heads. This is the first thought. The second sentence, they guide them from one place to another. This is the point of view of some scientists. Of course, there are other scientists who add another piece of information to show us that there is another cause or there is another reason. On the other hand, some others think that animals and birds have an innate ability to use the sun and the stars to look for their ways. Okay? Again, we refer to the linkers here. Here we have used on the other hand because you are opposing two points of view. Some people suggest an argument, and some others give another point of view. Now let's move to the final question here, related to the textbook. Over to you. Why were many Spanish people forced to migrate between 1936 and 1939? How was the situation then? So here we are speaking about historical events. This is your question again, and this is my answer. Spanish people were forced to migrate between 1936 and 1939 because there was a terrible civil war in Spain. In fact, the situation was extremely terrific as the armies used bombs and other modern weapons. So, thousands of civilians were killed and injured, and many homes and villages were destroyed. So here we have two parts of the question. Number one, okay, the cause of their movement and description of the situation at that time. Again, we go back to the linkers. Here I have used in fact, and I used so. Now that we have finished dealing with Over to You textbook series, let's move to the literature time. Here we are going to talk about the first literature time storybook, which was written by William Shakespeare. I'm going to deal with episode 2. Let's talk about Henry V now. We are going to talk about two periods: before he became a king and after he became a king. Before he became a king, he used to be ill-mannered. Okay? He didn't used to respect anybody. And he used to sit and to go with uneducated people. And number 3, he used to act, or he used to, his action and the activities were futile. That means that they were worthless and useless. After he became a king, we have another personality. Number 1, he became righteous, then merciful, intelligent, and eloquent. Eloquent means that he used to have a power in convincing people by using language. Now, his remarkable transformation annoyed some of his advisors. Why? Because his attitude changed to the better. So his advisors tried to divert the king, okay, by forcing in his head an idea that he was the legitimate heir of the throne of France, and he was a descendant of a French queen. Henry V sent a word, of course, to the King of France to inform him that he is going to invade their kingdom. The Dauphin, which means the biggest child of the king, sent his ambassadors refuting, that means he refused, okay, refuting Harry's intention. Then the Dauphin committed a very dangerous and a very bad mistake by sending Henry V some tennis balls. Why? Do you remember why? Okay, he sent him these balls to remind him of his childhood and of his era before becoming a king, to show that he was not okay. Now, after receiving the word of the Dauphin, do you expect that Henry is going to give up? I don't think so. Let's have it. Henry's determination to invade France doubled. So France resorted to plotting against Henry V. Okay, the king and his advisors decided to get rid of the king in order to avoid waging the war against England. Henry V was fully aware of the plot, and remember that he discovered that his close friends wanted to cheat him, so he knew about the plot and killed them. After this, preparations for the war were resumed. These are approximately the main ideas about episode 1. Now let's concentrate on episode number 2. And this is your first question. What were the motives of the English and the French to wage war on each others? That means, what were the reasons and what were the causes that obliged France on the one hand and England on the other hand to wage wars against each other? This is my answer. The English wanted to defend their king's dignity after being humiliated by the Dauphin, after being humiliated by the French Dauphin, after the conspiracy against their king's life. Whereas the French were defending their country against the English invaders, which is their right. Okay? Here again, I go back to the linkers in order to provide us with a very logical and manageable piece of writing or a short paragraph. I have used whereas here. This is your second question. What made both Henry V and the Dauphin so confident of their victory in the war? So both parties are confident that they are going to win the war. Of course, everyone has his own reasons for thinking like this. This is the answer. Henry V thought that their strength as unrivaled army would guarantee their victory. But Dauphin believed that King Henry V was a mischievous young man who lacks wisdom and reason. As a result, or as such, he would make an error in judgment that would cost him the battle. So everybody has his own reasons why, okay, he is going to win the victory over the other. Here I have used some linkers. Again, you have noticed during my presentation that I'm insisting on such kind of things. They are simple things, but they are very important in order to gain as many marks as possible. And here I have used as such. The following question: the French king didn't share his son's opinions concerning King Henry V. Why? You remember during the episode 2 that the King of France did not agree with what his son had already done. So he didn't share his opinion. This is the answer for the question. The French king didn't share his son's opinions because he was wiser than the others. Of course, he is a king, and he is supposed to be the wisest man in his kingdom. Moreover, he was aware that during all the previous wars, the English had been victorious, and the French had, more than once, been bitterly defeated. So this king is not only wise, but also is experienced enough to know how to take decisions, because he is an old man and he knows in advance what happened during the whole history. So the King of France is a wise man, an experienced man. I have used these linkers in order to link my sentences to have a good and a cohesive paragraph. Let's have a look at this question now. The question says, why was it very difficult for the French king to choose between fighting and surrendering? You remember, Henry V sent another word for the King of France to make him choose between two things, whether to surrender, which means to give up, okay, to give his kingdom to him, or to fight against him. It's a very difficult choice. The answer is this. It was difficult for the French king to choose between fighting and surrendering because both options were not in his favor. How? If he fought, he would lose the war and would be imprisoned or killed, of course. He is a loser at the end. But if he surrendered, he would lose his dignity and would be humiliated by the English. These are the linkers that I have already used here, if and but. Okay, now to conclude, today I have dealt with some set book questions about Over to You textbook series, as well as some textbook questions, set book questions about Henry V. I hope that you have enjoyed our lesson today. I wish you good luck in future endeavors, and thank you for watching.